You feel the tightness in your chest when a problem lands, and your thoughts race faster than your breath. This audiobook will teach simple, practical habits that slow your body down and sharpen your thinking so you can act with confidence. You will hear clear steps to steady your attention, control emotional reactions, and rebuild quickly after setbacks. Each idea is something you can use the same day. Expect short routines for moments when your pulse is high and clear methods for planning when the path is cloudy. The voice here is direct and human, and the goal is real change, not empty motivation. If you want tools that work under real pressure habits you can keep and a way to measure small wins, this audiobook will guide you through that process. Stay so you can learn how small daily choices add up to reliable strength and how to turn stress into forward motion with calm, practical action. Chapter 1. Develop calm thinking that guides strong decisions during pressure. Develop calm thinking that guides strong decisions during pressure begins with a choice that is simple and practical to make and difficult to practice consistently. You can begin this choice right now by deciding that clarity matters more than immediate comfort, and that calm thinking is a skill that grows with steady practice, rather than a trait you either them that do not have. Pressure will come repeatedly and unpredictably in work, school, relationships, and daily life, and the response you train now will determine how much those moments shape you or how much you shape them. The first step is to understand what calm thinking really means. Calm thinking is not absence of feeling. Calm thinking is the ability to hold feeling in awareness while remaining able to observe, assess, and act. It is a steady hand on the wheel when wind and rain try to pull the car off the road. It is not an escape from reality, but an approach that lets facts guide decisions instead of panic, habit, or shame. Begin with a simple practice you can use in any urgent moment. When pressure arrives, notice 3 things in this order: the physical sensation, your immediate judgment, and the next small action you can take. Name the physical sensation in one clear word, for example, tightness, heat, trembling, or breath shallow. Naming reduces the storm of feeling to a fact you can examine. Next, state the immediate judgment that wants to drive your action, such as this situation is unbearable, or I cannot handle this, or they are attacking me. Judgments are not truth, they are a quick interpretation. Recognize them as interpretations. Finally, choose one small concrete action that moves you forward. For example, breathe for 10 seconds, step back a half meter, send a short, clarifying message, or write one sentence. The sequence named Judge Act is immediate and practical. It creates distance from impulse and replaces a chaotic chain reaction with a single repeatable habit. Breathing is the most effective anchor for calm thinking because it is always available and it changes the body, which then changes the mind. Use a patterned breath when stress spikes. Breathe in quietly for 4 count, hold for 4 count, breathe out for 6 count, and pause for 2 count. Repeat 3 times. This pattern reduces heart rate and creates enough space to do the name Judge Act sequence. Practice the pattern when calm so it becomes automatic in pressure. Train the body to respond first to the breath rather than to panic. Create a decision checklist to use when seconds matter. The checklist should be short and portable, 3 to 5 items max. An example for high-pressure moments could be 1. Am I safe physically? 2. What can I control right now? 3. What outcome matters most? 4. What is one immediate step I can take? Use this checklist aloud when a crisis hits. Speaking quiet facts to yourself stabilizes attention. Over time, the checklist becomes a reflex and reduces wasted energy on circular worry. Cultivate a values-based anchor. Under pressure, decisions are clearer when they are measured against a few core values you have chosen deliberately. If your values include honesty, stewardship, and care, then test your options against those values. A values check answers the question, will this choice align with who I want to be even under stress? Values work as a compass when the noise around you tempts compromise. Take time now to write 3 values that matter more than approval or avoidance. Post them somewhere visible and read them daily. When pressure arrives, refer to them immediately. They will steady you. Use pre-mortem planning to remove catastrophic surprise and to strengthen calm thinking. Imagine a likely pressure scenario related to your work, study, or relationships and assume that a critical failure has occurred. Then ask, why did this fail? What small signs were missed? What could I have done earlier? Identify 2 early warning signs and 2 small preventive actions. This exercise trains the mind to expect difficulty and to locate practical signals rather than panic. Doing pre-mortems prepares you to respond with options rather than with shock. Practice decision framing to keep focus on what matters. Under pressure, the mind shrinks or expands poorly. Framing helps the mind expand in useful ways. Use 3 frames to examine any problem. 1 short term, what must happen in the next hour. 2 medium term, what must happen in the next week. 3 long term, how will this matter in a year? Pressure often hijacks attention and forces you to treat every problem as permanent. Framing lets you allocate effort where it matters most. If the short-term answer is survive and stabilize, then act on that. If the long-term answer is this is minor, then restrain reactive energy. Build a toolbox of default actions so choices are not made from fear but from habit. Defaults reduce decision fatigue and prevent panic choices. Examples of default actions include sending a short composed message instead of an emotional reply, waiting 10 minutes before responding to a provocation, or shifting to a constructive task for 20 minutes to create momentum. Design 3 default actions now for categories you face often: conflict, deadlines, and personal setbacks. When pressure hits, use a default rather than improvising under stress. Learn to name cognitive distortions and practice a quick corrective routine. Common distortions under pressure include catastrophizing, assuming, mind reading, and magnifying negatives while ignoring positives. Train a redo line you repeat mentally when distortions appear. For example, this is an interpretation, not a fact, or evidence shows this is difficult but not impossible. Use the evidence test. Ask what evidence supports this worst case and what evidence contradicts it. This simple evidence check reduces the power of distorted thoughts. Adopt a daily discipline that supports calm thinking. Mental strength is built not in the crisis, but in the quiet hours. Include small rituals each day that condition the brain to act with clarity. A morning 5-minute planning practice is powerful. Spend 5 minutes writing 1 sentence that says what matters today and 1 short list of 3 tasks that will move it forward. End the day with a brief review. Write down what went well, what you learned, and 1 tiny improvement to make tomorrow. This pairing of morning intention and evening review trains the mind to be purposeful and resilient. Over weeks, you will notice decisions become cleaner because the mental environment is less cluttered. Practice deliberate exposure to manageable pressure. The mind grows when challenged in controlled ways. Choose a low-stakes situation that creates mild stress and commit to facing it intentionally. Examples include speaking first in a small meeting, asking for feedback, or starting a difficult conversation. Set a clear goal for the exposure, a measurable outcome, and a short debrief afterward. The debrief asks, what did I do well? What went wrong? What will I try differently next time? These exposures build confidence and teach you how to apply calm thinking under real conditions. Use body language and posture to support composure. When pressure rises, posture often collapses and breathing becomes shallow. Consciously open shoulders, lift the chest, and ground your feet. Even a small physical correction signals the nervous system that you are not surrendering to panic. Keep voice steady by slowing speech and lowering pitch slightly. Practice this in mirror or on camera so it becomes familiar. Composure portrayed outwardly supports clarity inwardly. Create a resilience ledger. Track small actions that show you can handle difficulty. After each stressful moment, record 1 sentence what happened, 1 sentence what you did, and 1 sentence the outcome. Over time, this ledger becomes evidence of your capacity, and it weakens the siren call of doubt. When a new pressure surge arrives, review 3 entries that demonstrate your ability to handle stress. Evidence breeds calm. Make clear plans for information intake during pressure. Overwhelm often comes from unfiltered information. When a crisis arises, decide how much information you need, who will provide it, and what source is reliable. Assign information roles if the situation involves others. For example, in a group project, decide who gathers facts, who communicates, and who implements. Clear roles reduce confusion and improve action. Practice compassion toward yourself in pressure moments. Stoic calm is not rigid stoicism that denies feeling. It accepts pain and uses it constructively. When you fail to stay calm, name the fact without shame. For example, I lost composure, and then identify one corrective step. Shame breeds avoidance and secrecy, while honest accountability leads to learning. Use short corrective rituals after a lapse, a 10-minute walk, a short journal entry, and an action plan for the next similar situation. Train for clarity under time constraints with the 5-minute decision drill. Place a simple problem in front of you, set a timer for 5 minutes, and force a decision with a written short rationale. The constraint compels focus and trains the mind to move from analysis paralysis to decisive action. Begin with small problems and increase difficulty gradually. Over time, the muscle of calm decision-making grows stronger. Develop a practice for interpersonal pressure. Conflict with others is one of the most common triggers of panic. Use a 3-step communication method in tense conversations. Start with one clear factual observation. Describe what you noticed without judgment. State the effect on you and request one specific action. For example, observed, you missed the meeting yesterday. I was left without needed input. Would you confirm time for next meeting? This structure prevents escalation and keeps the conversation grounded in facts and needs. Commit to sleep, consistent rest, and simple nutrition, because the mind in a depleted body responds worse to stress. Prioritize sleep first. If possible, a short nap or a pause is better than forcing decisions when exhausted. Hydration and small protein-rich snacks stabilize blood sugar and reduce irritability. These are practical steps, not moral judgments. A rested brain thinks calmly. Practice the Stoic exercise of negative visualization with care. Spend 5 minutes imagining a mild setback, such as a lost file or a delayed plan, and then rehearse a practical plan to handle it. The exercise reduces surprise and fosters readiness. Do not dwell on catastrophic images that create anxiety, rather focus on plausible, manageable setbacks and rehearsed responses. Use technology intentionally. Turn off non-essential notifications during focused work and have a brief communication script for emergencies. When urgent messages arrive, scan for facts, not emotions, and respond with a short stabilizing message, such as received, working on it, I will update in 30 minutes. This avoids emotional reactivity and creates expectation of calm follow-up. Measure progress with clear signals, not feelings alone. Track how often you used the name, judge, act, sequence the number of times breathing reduced escalation or the count of default actions applied. Set small weekly goals, such as use the pause routine 5 times and practice a 5-minute decision drill 3 times. Objective measures reduce reliance on vague impressions. When a major pressure event occurs, do a structured after-action review. Describe what happened, identify one decision that mattered most, and list 2 improvements for future responses. Share the review with a trusted person for accountability. Doing this publicly in a small circle makes calm practice social and practical. Seek mentors and examples who model calm thinking. Watch interviews, read short biographies, and study how they framed decisions under pressure. Look for patterns, not perfection. Try to describe aloud in 2 sentences how they stayed steady. Modeling shortens the learning curve. Finally, adopt a long horizon mindset. Pressure shrinks attention and makes everything urgent. Remind yourself with a simple question: will this matter in 5 years? If the honest answer is no, then reduce the emotional weight. If yes, then allocate energy deliberately and begin with the smallest step that moves the important forward. This perspective returns purpose to choice. Confidence in pressure is built by repeated practice, by small controlled exposures, and by building habits that replace panic with procedure. The work is practical, not glamorous. It involves breathing training, brief written plans, small rituals, and honest review. It requires patience. The payoff is profound. When calm thinking becomes habitual, decisions become clearer, work becomes steadier, and relationships hold more space for repair and growth. You have the tools to begin right now. The name, judge, act, pause, breath checklist, and default actions. Start with one practice and build from there. Over time, calm thinking becomes the baseline where you approach difficulty, not an occasional high performance under rare conditions. The goal is not to be perfect during every storm, but to increase the percentage of storms you navigate without losing yourself. Each small success compounds. Practice tonight with a 5-minute decision drill or a short negative visualization, and choose one default action for a future tense interaction. These small steps create momentum. This chapter provides a foundation. The next practices will deepen your ability to act with clarity and strength. If any of these exercises feel foreign, begin with the simplest. Choose one breathing pattern and use it daily until it is familiar, then add one other routine. Calm thinking is learned behavior built by repetition, not a sudden gift. It becomes real when you train the body, the mind, and the context to support the same outcome, a clear, steady response in moments that used to feel overwhelming. Start now and commit to steady practice. Chapter 2: Train your mind daily to stay strong in uncertainty. Life rarely offers perfect certainty. Plans change without warning. People act in ways you did not expect. Situations unfold slowly when you want clear answers immediately. The mind naturally resists this environment. It wants guarantees. It wants predictable results. When those guarantees are missing, many people feel restless, worried, and mentally weak. But mental strength grows precisely in these moments. Strength develops when the mind learns to remain steady, even when the future is unclear. Training the mind to stay strong in uncertainty is not something that happens once. It is a daily discipline. The brain becomes stable through repetition, just like the body becomes stronger through repeated exercise. Every day gives opportunities to train calm thinking, steady focus, and emotional balance. When you approach uncertainty as training rather than as a threat, you begin to build a powerful inner foundation that cannot easily be shaken. The first step in daily mental training is accepting a simple reality. Uncertainty is normal. It is not a problem that needs to disappear. It is a condition of life. Careers change. Health conditions shift. Relationships evolve. Opportunities appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly. When you stop expecting constant stability, you stop wasting energy fighting reality. Your attention becomes available for productive action. One powerful daily practice is beginning each morning with mental preparation. Before entering the day, spend several quiet minutes reminding yourself that unexpected events may happen. A meeting may change. A plan may fail. A person may disagree with you. Preparing your mind for these possibilities prevents emotional shock when they occur. You are not predicting disaster. You are building readiness. During this preparation, ask yourself a simple question. How will I respond if today does not go according to plan? Write down one sentence that describes the attitude you want to maintain. It might be calm, focus, steady effort, or patient observation. This sentence becomes a mental guide throughout the day. When uncertainty appears, you return to that attitude instead of reacting impulsively. Another important training method involves controlling your attention. Uncertainty often creates endless thinking about future possibilities. The mind begins asking questions that cannot be answered yet. What if this fails? What if something goes wrong? What if the outcome is bad? This pattern drains energy and weakens concentration. Strong minds learn to redirect attention toward present action. Whenever you notice yourself trapped in future worries, pause and bring your focus back to what you can do right now. Ask a practical question. What is one useful step I can take at this moment? Even the smallest step restores a sense of control. You might organize information, prepare a document, clarify a task, or improve a small detail. Progress in the present weakens anxiety about the future. Daily journaling also strengthens the mind during uncertain times. Writing organizes scattered thoughts and reveals patterns that remain hidden in the mind. Spend a few minutes each evening writing about one uncertain situation you faced that day. Describe what happened. Describe how you reacted. Then write what you learned from the experience. Over time, this habit creates awareness. You begin to notice that many uncertain situations resolve themselves without disaster. Some even lead to positive outcomes you did not expect. This understanding builds patience. Instead of rushing toward quick emotional reactions, you allow events to unfold while maintaining thoughtful action. Training mental strength also requires building tolerance for temporary discomfort. Uncertainty often produces feelings of tension or impatience. The mind wants immediate answers. However, many important results take time. Learning to sit with incomplete information without becoming distressed is a powerful skill. You can train this skill through small exercises. Choose moments during the day where you normally seek quick certainty. Perhaps you check messages repeatedly or search constantly for updates. Instead, practice waiting calmly for a short period before checking again. During that time, focus on your breathing and continue working on other tasks. This teaches the brain that waiting does not equal danger. Another effective practice is limiting exposure to unnecessary information. Constant news updates, endless social media, and continuous comparison with others can create the illusion that everyone else has clear direction while you remain uncertain. In reality, most people face similar doubts. Reducing information overload helps the mind remain balanced. Choose specific times to review important information rather than consuming it continuously. This creates mental space for deeper thinking and focused effort. Clarity often appears when the mind is quiet rather than crowded. Physical discipline also plays a significant role in mental stability. Simple daily activities such as walking, exercising, or maintaining regular routines strengthen emotional endurance. When the body moves, the mind releases tension and processes thoughts more effectively. Many strong decisions are made during quiet walks, when the mind finally has room to think clearly. Consistency is more important than intensity. A short daily routine performed regularly builds resilience far more effectively than occasional bursts of extreme effort. 10 minutes of reflection each day creates stronger habits than one long session followed by many days of neglect. Uncertainty also provides opportunities to practice courage. Courage does not mean absence of fear. It means acting with purpose even while the outcome remains unclear. Each time you take a constructive step despite uncertainty, you reinforce the belief that you can handle whatever follows. Consider situations where you delayed action because you wanted perfect clarity. Many opportunities disappeared during excessive waiting. Training the mind means learning to move forward with reasonable information rather than waiting for absolute certainty. Progress often creates the clarity that hesitation cannot provide. Decision-making improves when you focus on process instead of immediate results. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control preparation, effort, and attitude. When uncertainty appears, evaluate whether your process is strong. Did you gather relevant information? Did you think carefully about possible actions? Did you act with integrity? If the process is solid, then accept the result with calm confidence. Strong individuals also develop flexibility. Rigid thinking struggles in uncertain conditions because it expects only one path forward. Flexible thinking recognizes multiple possibilities. When one path becomes blocked, another option can appear. This adaptability keeps progress moving. You can strengthen flexibility by asking alternative questions whenever a plan fails. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" ask, "What other approach can work now?" Instead of asking, "Why is this difficult?" ask, "What skill can I develop from this challenge?" Questions shape perception. Productive questions reveal opportunities hidden inside uncertainty. Support from others can also strengthen mental resilience. Conversations with trusted individuals provide perspective that your own mind may miss. Share your thoughts with people who value honest discussion rather than constant negativity. Listening to another viewpoint often reduces confusion and opens new paths forward. However, maintain independence in final decisions. Advice can guide you, but responsibility remains yours. Training the mind means developing confidence in your ability to evaluate situations and act responsibly even when opinions differ. Another valuable habit involves practicing gratitude during uncertain periods. Gratitude does not ignore difficulty. Instead, it reminds the mind that life contains stability alongside change. Each evening identifies several things that remained steady during the day. Perhaps a supportive conversation, a completed task, or simply the opportunity to learn something new. Recognizing these elements balances the mind and prevents discouragement. Sleep also deserves attention. Exhaustion magnifies uncertainty and weakens judgment. Protecting consistent rest strengthens emotional regulation and cognitive clarity. When the mind is rested, it evaluates challenges with greater patience and accuracy. Remember that uncertainty often signals growth. Periods of transition frequently precede improvement. New careers, new relationships, and new knowledge all begin in unclear territory. If everything were predictable, progress would rarely occur. Viewing uncertainty as part of development transforms fear into curiosity. When a difficult unknown appears, remind yourself that this moment is also training. The mind becomes stronger every time it remains composed and thoughtful in the absence of guarantees. Over months and years, this discipline produces remarkable confidence. Situations that once caused anxiety become manageable challenges. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty from life. Such a goal would be impossible. The true goal is to build a mind that remains stable while uncertainty exists. A trained mind does not collapse under pressure. It observes carefully, chooses actions deliberately, and continues moving forward with patience. Daily practice creates this strength. Small routines repeated consistently reshape mental habits. Preparation each morning, thoughtful reflection each evening, controlled attention during the day, and steady action despite incomplete information slowly transform the way you experience life. Eventually, uncertainty no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes a familiar environment where growth happens. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, you learn to operate effectively within imperfect ones. This ability separates those who remain stuck from those who continue advancing. A strong mind understands that clarity is often earned through action rather than given beforehand. By training your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors each day, you develop resilience that does not depend on predictable outcomes. You become capable of navigating change with calm determination. Each uncertain moment becomes another opportunity to practice strength. Each decision made with patience builds deeper confidence. Over time, the habit of steady thinking replaces the old habit of worry. Life remains unpredictable, but your response becomes reliable. That reliability is the essence of mental strength. It is the quiet knowledge that whatever circumstances appear, you possess the discipline, awareness, and courage to face them with dignity and thoughtful action. And this strength grows stronger every single day you continue the training. Chapter 3: Zen. Accept difficult realities and build emotional control every day. Accepting difficult realities is the single most practical step towards steady emotional control, because denial wastes energy and slows effective action. Start by recognizing that some facts cannot be changed immediately, and that resisting them only deepens stress, while clarity opens options. When an unwanted truth appears, pause for a moment and observe it as information rather than as a verdict about your worth or future. Practicing this kind of clean observation trains the mind to separate facts from the stories you tell yourself about those facts. Notice what is true without adding a long commentary about how it should not be true. This simple separation reduces emotional intensity and creates space for rational choices. Build a short routine you can use the moment reality hits hard. First, take 3 slow breaths to steady the nervous system. Then state the core fact in one plain sentence, for example, the deadline moved, or the relationship is strained. Finish the routine by asking a single practical question: what can I do right now to respond? This minimal structure prevents emotion from driving impulsive reactions, and it returns focus to the next manageable step. Develop emotional vocabulary so feelings do not run unnamed inside you. Learn to describe sensations and emotions precisely using words like disappointment, tension, fatigue, or relief. Clear labels diminish confusion and make it easier to choose appropriate responses. A 2-minute daily practice of writing down 3 emotions you felt during the day deepens this skill quickly. Over time, you will notice patterns and triggers that were invisible before. Practice a brief acceptance exercise each morning. Spend 5 minutes acknowledging potential difficulties that could arise during the day, and then outline one realistic response for each. This is not pessimism, but practical preparation. The exercise reduces surprise and transforms uncertainty into manageable tasks. Morning readiness primes the mind to act with less reactivity when challenges appear. Set boundaries around how long you will ruminate on a problem. Uncontrolled rumination prolongs distress and depletes decision-making. Create a specific time and duration for problem thinking, such as 20 minutes in the evening. During that period, focus on facts, options, and small next steps. Outside that window, redirect attention to productive activity. This containment builds discipline and reduces the emotional bleed into every moment. Use short physical interventions to regulate emotion. Change posture, take a walk, drink water, or wash your face. These actions influence brain state and interrupt escalating feelings. When tension becomes intense, a brief walk of 5 to 10 minutes often returns perspective more reliably than further mental effort. Keep these interventions simple so they are easy to use under stress. Train the habit of asking constructive questions when emotions surge. Replace "why is this happening" with "what information do I need" and "what help can I request?" Constructive questions orient the mind toward solutions rather than toward looping complaints. Create a small list of useful questions and memorize them so they come naturally in high-emotion moments. Design a response plan for recurring triggers. Identify 2 situations that repeatedly provoke strong feelings and outline one specific action for each, such as breathe for 3 minutes, call a friend, or step away and count backward from 10. Rehearse these responses until they are automatic. Automatic responses reduce the risk of reactive behavior that later requires repair. Practice forgiving progress over perfection. Emotional control is a skill acquired progressively through repeated practice and honest feedback. When a reaction goes poorly, register the event without harsh judgment, then document one improvement to try next time. This approach turns failures into learning and preserves motivation. Create an emotional inventory at the end of each day. Write 3 sentences that record what moved you emotionally, what you did, and one lesson you will apply tomorrow. This short ritual translates experience into insight and builds a personal record of growth. Reviewing the inventory weekly reveals trends and confirms that small, steady changes add up over time. Learn to separate immediate impulses from deliberate choices by delaying important responses. If a message or event triggers strong emotion, wait at least 15 minutes before responding. Use that interval to breathe and think through consequences. Many regrets are avoided by a short pause that allows perspective to return. Adopt a clear standard for acceptable behavior under pressure based on values rather than mood. Decide in advance how you will act when upset. For example, remain respectful, limit blaming, and seek facts first. Measuring actions against precautions and standards keeps behavior aligned with long-term goals, even when emotions fluctuate. Practice controlled exposure to emotional triggers in safe settings. Deliberately experience mild discomfort, such as delivering brief, honest feedback or requesting a change at work, and then note what happens. Controlled exposure builds tolerance and demonstrates that difficult moments are survivable and often less catastrophic than imagined. Use breathing techniques tailored to calm activation. Slow diaphragmatic breathing, extended exhales, and brief holds between breaths lower physiological arousal. Practice these techniques when calm so they become accessible under stress. Rehearsed regulation tools are more effective than improvised attempts to control feelings. Develop a short anchoring phrase to steady thought during turbulence. Choose a concise sentence that reflects your core intention, such as "focus on what I can control" or "stay honest and clear." Repeat this phrase silently to center attention and reduce the pull of reactivity. Limit exposure to emotional contagion. Media arguments, social drama, and constant negativity from others amplify emotional volatility. Set deliberate limits on consuming content that triggers distress and curate relationships that promote balance and constructive dialogue. Protecting emotional bandwidth allows better response when genuine concerns appear. Practice gratitude intentionally during tough periods. Each evening, name 3 small things that worked or provided comfort. This habit does not deny hardship but balances attention so suffering does not dominate perspective. Balanced perception supports calmer decision-making. Build physical resilience through consistent sleep, movement, and nutrition. Emotional control depends on clear cognitive function that deteriorates when basic needs are neglected. Prioritize rest even during busy seasons because a rested mind responds with more measured judgment. Use mental rehearsal to prepare for difficult conversations or decisions. Visualize the key facts, the likely responses, and your chosen words. Rehearsal reduces surprise and increases clarity under pressure. Practicing specific lines helps maintain composure and communicate without escalating conflict. Seek feedback from trusted people after emotionally charged interactions. Ask what they observed, how your actions affected the situation, and one change they recommend. External perspective identifies blind spots and accelerates improvement when combined with personal reflection. Create simple rituals that reset the mind after emotional events. A 5-minute breathing session, a short walk, or writing a paragraph helps end the episode and resume productive activity. Rituals signal to the brain that the emotional episode has a conclusion and that forward motion is required. Recognize the difference between acceptance and resignation. Acceptance acknowledges reality while still pursuing improvements when possible. Resignation gives up prematurely. Practice distinguishing these responses by asking whether action remains possible and valuable. If action is possible, choose a specific next step. If not, then accept and redirect energy toward what can be influenced. Cultivate curiosity about emotional reactions. Ask what belief or expectation produced the response. Curiosity reduces shame and promotes learning. Treat emotional signals as data that point to underlying needs or outdated assumptions. Develop a simple plan for when strong emotions impair decision-making. Identify one trusted advisor to consult a checklist of essential facts and a short waiting period before final choices. Implementing a clear decision protocol prevents avoidable errors born of heightened feeling. Practice generosity toward yourself when progress is slow. Emotional mastery is incremental and often uneven. Celebrate small improvements and treat setbacks as temporary tests rather than fixed failures. Make accountability visible by sharing one emotional growth goal with a supportive person. Regular brief reports on progress create external motivation and encourage honest evaluation. Finally, adopt a monthly review focused on emotional trends. Identify 3 advances and 2 persistent challenges and create one focused experiment to address a challenge. Consistent review keeps emotional training deliberate and forward-moving. Daily emotional control is not a denial of feeling, but a disciplined practice of acknowledging emotion, regulating physiology, and choosing constructive action. Accepting difficult realities frees attention for response rather than resistance. Small, deliberate habits practiced each day combine into substantial resilience that shows up in calmer relationships, clearer decisions, and a stronger day-to-day life. Chapter 40. Strengthen self-discipline through small daily actions and habits. Self-discipline is often misunderstood as something harsh or extreme, but real discipline grows quietly through small daily actions that slowly shape the direction of a person's life. It is not built through sudden bursts of motivation. It is created through consistent behavior that repeats day after day, even when excitement fades. Strong individuals understand that their future is not decided by occasional effort, but by daily habits that either strengthen or weaken their character. Every day presents simple choices. Wake up when the alarm rings or delay the start of the day. Finish an important task or postpone it again. Speak honestly or avoid responsibility. These choices may seem small in the moment, yet they accumulate over time and form the structure of your discipline. A person who consistently honors small commitments gradually builds the confidence that larger goals can also be achieved. Begin by focusing on the first hour of your morning. The way you start the day often determines the quality of your decisions afterward. When the mind wakes up slowly and without direction, it easily drifts toward distraction. A disciplined morning creates momentum. Instead of reaching immediately for your phone or wandering through random thoughts, start with one deliberate action that signals purpose. Make your bed, drink water, and take several minutes to organize your priorities for the day. These actions are not impressive on the surface, yet they send a clear message to your mind that the day will be handled with order rather than chaos. Discipline grows when actions become intentional rather than automatic. After preparing your morning mindset, choose a limited number of meaningful tasks that truly deserve your energy. Trying to complete everything at once weakens discipline because the mind becomes overwhelmed. Select 2 or 3 tasks that will move your life forward in a clear way. Write them down and focus on completing them with full attention before turning toward less important activities. Completing small tasks consistently builds trust in yourself. When you finish what you planned, you strengthen the belief that your words match your actions. This self-trust is one of the most valuable forms of inner strength. Without it, even talented people struggle to move forward because they doubt their own consistency. One powerful way to build discipline is by creating routines that remove unnecessary decisions. Every time you must decide whether to act or not, you risk losing momentum. Routines simplify behavior by turning important actions into normal parts of the day. For example, schedule a regular time for reading, learning, exercising, or practicing a skill. When these activities become routine, they no longer depend on motivation. Another practical method involves breaking large goals into extremely small steps. A person who tries to change everything at once often becomes discouraged. Discipline grows more reliably when progress begins with actions that are easy to repeat. If you want to read more, begin with 10 minutes each day. If you want to improve physical strength, begin with a short walk. Consistency matters far more than intensity. Small victories accumulate quickly. When you complete a simple task each day, you begin to experience progress rather than frustration. This sense of movement fuels motivation and makes it easier to continue. Over time, those small actions naturally expand into larger accomplishments without overwhelming your energy. Pay attention to how you use moments of waiting throughout the day. Many people treat these moments as empty time that must be filled with random distractions. Instead, view them as opportunities for disciplined behavior. A few minutes can be used to review notes, reflect on priorities, or simply practice calm breathing. Turning idle moments into productive ones strengthens focus and awareness. Discipline also requires learning to manage discomfort. Many important tasks feel inconvenient at the beginning. The mind prefers activities that bring quick pleasure and avoids those that require effort. Recognizing this pattern helps you respond wisely. When you notice resistance rising, remind yourself that discomfort is often a signal of growth rather than a sign to stop. Instead of fighting discomfort, aggressively acknowledge it calmly and continue with the task. Tell yourself that the feeling is temporary and that completing the action matters more than the mood surrounding it. This quiet persistence builds mental toughness that carries into other areas of life. Creating a structured environment also supports disciplined behavior. Surroundings influence habits more than people often realize. A workspace filled with distractions weakens focus. An organized environment encourages clarity. Take time to arrange your space so that important tools are easily accessible and unnecessary interruptions are reduced. Another powerful practice is tracking your habits. Write down the actions you want to perform each day and mark them when completed. This visual record provides clear evidence of progress. Watching a chain of completed habits grow across days and weeks strengthens commitment. Breaking the chain becomes something you naturally want to avoid. However, discipline is not about punishing yourself when a mistake occurs. Everyone experiences days when plans fail. The key is returning quickly to your routine without turning a small interruption into a long delay. One missed day does not destroy progress. Giving up completely does. Treat mistakes as reminders to return to your path, rather than reasons to abandon it. Evening reflection plays an important role in strengthening discipline. Before sleeping, spend a few minutes reviewing your day. Ask yourself what actions showed discipline and what moments revealed weakness. This review is not meant to create guilt. Its purpose is to improve awareness so tomorrow can be handled with greater clarity. Write down one improvement you will apply the next day. Small corrections applied regularly create powerful long-term growth. Over weeks and months, your routines will become stronger and your ability to manage time will improve. Another essential part of discipline involves protecting your attention. Modern life constantly competes for your focus through messages, entertainment, and endless information. Without clear boundaries, these distractions consume valuable time and weaken commitment. Decide when you will engage with technology and when you will remain focused on meaningful work. Silencing notifications during important tasks allows the mind to concentrate deeply. Deep concentration strengthens discipline because it proves that you control your attention rather than allowing it to be controlled by outside demands. Physical health also supports disciplined behavior. Regular movement, balanced nutrition, and proper rest improve energy levels and mental clarity. A tired body often leads to careless decisions, while a healthy body supports steady effort. Treating physical health seriously is therefore part of strengthening mental discipline. Discipline grows stronger when you remember the deeper reason behind your actions. Goals connected to meaningful values produce greater commitment than goals based only on temporary excitement. Take time to reflect on why your efforts matter. Perhaps you want to support your family, improve your knowledge, or contribute something valuable to others. Connecting daily habits with these larger purposes strengthens determination. Support from responsible individuals can also reinforce disciplined behavior. Share your goals with people who respect effort and personal growth. When others are aware of your commitments, it becomes easier to remain accountable. Encouragement from supportive voices strengthens resolve during moments of doubt. Over time, discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about honoring the identity you have built. You begin to see yourself as someone who completes tasks, keeps promises, and follows through on responsibilities. This identity shapes your decisions naturally because acting with discipline feels consistent with who you are. A disciplined life does not eliminate challenges. Difficult days still appear, plans may still change unexpectedly. The difference is that disciplined individuals continue acting with purpose regardless of changing circumstances. Their routines provide stability when emotions fluctuate. The strength developed through small daily actions eventually spreads into every part of life. Work becomes more organized. Relationships improve because promises are kept. Personal confidence grows because you know that your efforts are reliable. These benefits appear gradually, yet they become deeply rooted over time. Self-discipline, therefore, is not a dramatic transformation that happens overnight. It is the result of ordinary choices repeated patiently. Making your bed, finishing a task on schedule, practicing a skill each day, protecting your attention, and reflecting on your progress may seem modest individually. Together they form a powerful system that strengthens character. Each day gives you another opportunity to practice this system. You do not need perfect conditions to begin. Start with the smallest action that moves you toward your goal and repeat it tomorrow. As the days continue, those actions will become habits, and those habits will become the structure of a disciplined life. Through steady practice, you will discover that discipline is not a restriction, but a form of freedom. When your actions follow clear intentions, you waste less time on regret, confusion, and hesitation. Energy becomes focused on meaningful progress rather than scattered across distractions. A strong, disciplined mind does not depend on motivation to act. It depends on habits that guide behavior even when motivation fades. By strengthening these habits through small daily actions, you build a life that moves forward with stability, clarity, and quiet determination. Chapter 5. Focus attention on solutions instead of fear or problems. Every person encounters problems. Delays appear without warning. Plans break apart. Other people make mistakes. Circumstances change suddenly. The difference between those who remain mentally strong and those who become overwhelmed is not the number of problems they face. The difference lies in where they place their attention. Attention is one of the most powerful tools a person has. Whatever you focus on grows stronger in your mind. If attention stays fixed on fear and difficulty, then confusion increases and action becomes weaker. When attention turns toward solutions, the mind becomes active and creative. Fear often begins as a natural reaction when something unexpected happens. The body senses uncertainty and prepares to protect itself. This reaction is normal and even useful in situations that require caution. The challenge begins when fear dominates attention for too long. Instead of guiding careful decisions, it traps the mind in endless thinking about what could go wrong. The imagination begins creating scenarios that may never occur. This pattern consumes time and drains energy that could be used for constructive action. The first step in focusing on solutions is recognizing when attention has been captured by fear. Many people allow their thoughts to wander through worst-case possibilities without realizing how much time is passing. Training the mind requires noticing these moments early. When you realize that your thinking has become dominated by worry, pause and acknowledge the situation clearly. Tell yourself that fear has entered your thinking and that it is time to shift your focus. Once you notice this pattern, bring your attention back to facts. Ask yourself what is actually happening right now rather than what might happen in the future. Fear often grows because the mind mixes imagination with reality. Separating facts from assumptions restores clarity. Write down the concrete elements of the situation. What exactly has occurred? What information is available? What remains unknown? This simple exercise often reveals that the situation is more manageable than it first appeared. After clarifying the facts, the next step is identifying what can still be influenced. Even in difficult circumstances, there is usually some area where action remains possible. It may be a small step, but it is still movement forward. Focusing on influence shifts attention from helplessness toward capability. Ask yourself what decision or action could improve the situation even slightly. The mind responds well to practical questions. Instead of asking why this problem exists, ask what can be done next. Instead of asking who is responsible, ask what action will move the situation forward. These questions redirect mental energy towards solutions. The goal is not to ignore the problem, but to avoid becoming trapped inside it. Breaking large challenges into smaller parts also helps maintain solution-focused thinking. When a problem appears overwhelming, the brain often shuts down because it cannot see a clear path. Dividing the situation into manageable sections restores progress. Each small step completed reduces the weight of the larger issue. Another useful practice is limiting the amount of time spent describing the problem. Many discussions become long explanations of what went wrong without producing any progress. Establish a habit of spending a short period understanding the problem and then moving quickly toward planning the response. This habit keeps conversations productive and prevents negativity from spreading. Language plays an important role in shaping attention. Words influence how the mind interprets events. Describing a situation as impossible or disastrous encourages discouragement. Describing it as difficult but solvable encourages determination. Choosing careful language helps guide the mind toward constructive thinking. One helpful approach involves writing possible solutions without judging them immediately. Allow your mind to explore several ideas, even if some appear imperfect at first. This process activates creativity and often reveals options that were not obvious at the beginning. Once a list of possibilities exists, you can evaluate them calmly and select the most practical choice. It is also important to recognize that solutions rarely appear instantly. Patience allows thoughtful ideas to develop. Rushing decisions under emotional pressure often leads to mistakes. When the mind feels overwhelmed, step away briefly and return with fresh attention. A short walk or a few minutes of quiet breathing can refresh mental clarity. People who focus on solutions develop the habit of learning from every challenge. When a difficulty occurs, they examine the experience carefully and look for lessons that can improve future performance. This learning mindset transforms problems into valuable training. Instead of feeling defeated, they gain knowledge that strengthens their ability to respond next time. Another practical technique is visualizing the desired outcome rather than replaying the problem repeatedly. Picture the situation resolved successfully. Imagine the actions that led to that outcome. This mental rehearsal encourages the brain to search for paths that lead toward success rather than toward failure. Strong individuals also accept that not every factor can be controlled. Some circumstances remain outside personal influence. Recognizing these limits prevents wasted effort. Instead of fighting what cannot be changed, they focus their energy on areas where improvement is still possible. This balanced perspective preserves strength during challenging times. Daily habits play an important role in shaping this mindset. Begin each day by reviewing your responsibilities and identifying areas where progress can be made. Even small improvements reinforce the belief that action matters. When the mind sees evidence of progress, it naturally continues searching for solutions. Surrounding yourself with people who practice constructive thinking can also strengthen this habit. Conversations that revolve around possibilities encourage creativity. Constant complaints without effort to improve situations weaken motivation. Choose environments where discussion leads toward action rather than endless frustration. Keeping a written record of problems solved can also reinforce confidence. When you review past situations that once seemed difficult but were eventually resolved, you gain perspective. The mind begins to understand that challenges are temporary events rather than permanent barriers. Physical movement also contributes to solution-focused thinking. The body and mind are connected closely. When the body remains inactive during stressful moments, the mind often becomes stuck in repetitive thoughts. Movement stimulates energy and refreshes attention. Even a short walk can unlock new ideas. Practicing gratitude during difficult situations also shifts attention away from fear. Recognizing what remains stable or positive prevents negativity from dominating perception. Gratitude does not eliminate problems, but it balances perspective so that the mind can think clearly. Self-trust grows when you repeatedly respond to challenges with thoughtful action. Each time you redirect attention towards solutions, you strengthen your belief in your ability to handle difficulty. Over time, this belief becomes a powerful form of mental resilience. Fear loses influence when the mind refuses to remain trapped inside it. Instead of allowing worry to control decisions, you gradually train your attention to move toward progress. This does not mean ignoring risks or pretending everything is easy. It means acknowledging challenges while choosing to act constructively. Life will continue presenting unexpected situations. Some will require patience, while others demand immediate decisions. The habit of focusing on solutions prepares you to respond calmly regardless of circumstances. You begin to approach problems with curiosity instead of panic. This shift in attention changes how you experience daily life. Difficult moments become opportunities to apply skill rather than threats to your confidence. Instead of feeling powerless, you remain engaged and thoughtful. The discipline of focusing on solutions strengthens with practice. Each time you redirect your attention, you reinforce the habit. Eventually, the mind learns to search for answers automatically. Fear may still appear for a moment, but it no longer controls your thinking. Through this consistent practice, you develop a mindset that remains productive even in challenging situations. Problems become signals for action rather than reasons for discouragement. Attention becomes a tool that guides your effort toward progress. When your mind learns to focus on solutions, you carry a quiet strength that influences every area of life. Work becomes more effective. Relationships become more constructive. Personal growth accelerates because your energy remains directed toward improvement. This approach transforms the way challenges are experienced. Instead of standing still while fear grows, you continue moving forward step by step. Each action creates momentum, and each solved problem builds deeper confidence. Over time, you realize that the ability to guide your attention is one of the greatest forms of mental strength. By choosing to focus on solutions, you train your mind to respond with clarity, determination, and calm purpose regardless of the obstacles that appear. Chapter 6c. Build confidence by facing challenges and completing hard tasks. Confidence does not appear suddenly, and it does not come from empty encouragement. Real confidence is built through experience. It grows when a person faces difficulty, works through resistance, and completes tasks that once felt uncomfortable or demanding. Many people wait until they feel confident before attempting something hard, but this order rarely works. Confidence usually arrives after effort, not before it. When you repeatedly step into challenges and finish meaningful work, the mind begins to trust your ability to handle pressure. Every difficult task contains a lesson about your capabilities. When you avoid these tasks, the mind quietly records that avoidance as evidence of weakness. Over time, this pattern creates doubt. The mind begins to believe that you cannot handle complexity or pressure because you rarely allow yourself the opportunity to try. Facing challenges interrupts this pattern and replaces it with proof that progress is possible. The first step in building confidence is choosing tasks that stretch your abilities without completely overwhelming you. If a challenge feels impossible, you may shut down before meaningful effort begins. If it feels too easy, you gain little growth from completing it. Look for tasks that require focus, patience, and discipline. These are the situations where confidence develops naturally through experience. Start with one clear objective. Define what completion looks like. When the mind understands exactly what must be done, it becomes easier to begin. Many people delay action because the task appears vague or uncertain. Clarity removes hesitation and directs energy toward progress. Once the objective is defined, break the task into smaller steps that can be handled one at a time. Each completed step strengthens momentum and reduces the mental weight of the overall challenge. Progress becomes visible, and the brain begins to associate effort with achievement rather than frustration. During the early stages of a difficult task, it is common to experience doubt. Thoughts may appear suggesting that the task is too complicated or that you lack the necessary skill. These thoughts are normal responses to unfamiliar effort. Confidence grows when you continue working despite these doubts, rather than allowing them to stop your progress. Focus attention on the immediate step rather than the entire challenge. When your mind concentrates on a single action, the work becomes manageable. This approach prevents the feeling of being overwhelmed by the full scope of the project. Completing even a small portion of the task provides valuable evidence to the mind. You begin to see that progress is possible through steady effort. Each completed action adds another layer of confidence because it confirms that your discipline is stronger than your hesitation. Another important practice is finishing what you start. Many people begin projects with enthusiasm but abandon them when difficulties appear. This habit slowly erodes confidence because the mind remembers unfinished efforts. Completing tasks even when motivation fades builds trust in your persistence. When you reach the end of a difficult assignment, take time to acknowledge the effort you invested. Reflect on what you learned during the process. Recognize the moments when you continued working even though the path felt uncertain. This reflection reinforces the connection between effort and personal growth. Challenges also provide opportunities to develop new skills. Each hard task requires you to learn something unfamiliar. Perhaps you must organize information more clearly, communicate more effectively, or manage time more carefully. As these abilities improve, your confidence naturally expands because you possess stronger tools for handling future responsibilities. Facing challenges consistently also strengthens emotional resilience. When you regularly work through discomfort, your tolerance for pressure increases. Situations that once felt intimidating begin to appear manageable because you have already experienced similar conditions. Another powerful strategy for building confidence is setting personal standards for effort. Instead of measuring success only by outcomes, evaluate how well you applied discipline and focus during the process. Sometimes results depend on factors outside your control, but effort remains within your influence. Maintaining high standards for effort ensures that every challenge contributes to growth regardless of the final result. Learning from mistakes is also an essential part of this process. Difficult tasks rarely proceed perfectly. Errors provide information about where improvement is needed. When a mistake occurs, treat it as feedback rather than failure. Analyze what happened and adjust your approach. This mindset prevents discouragement and turns setbacks into valuable lessons. Confidence deepens when you repeatedly demonstrate the ability to recover from mistakes. The mind begins to understand that problems can be corrected through thoughtful action. This understanding removes much of the fear that prevents people from attempting demanding work. Surrounding yourself with individuals who respect effort and discipline can also strengthen confidence. Supportive environments encourage growth because challenges are viewed as opportunities rather than threats. Observing others who approach difficulty with determination reinforces your own willingness to do the same. However, confidence must ultimately come from personal experience. Encouragement from others is helpful, but the strongest belief in your abilities develops when you see direct evidence of your own progress. Each completed task becomes proof that effort produces results. Maintaining physical and mental energy also supports this process. Difficult work requires concentration and endurance. Adequate rest, balanced nutrition, and regular movement improve the mind's ability to remain focused during demanding tasks. When your body feels strong, the mind approaches challenges with greater readiness. Another useful habit is reviewing past achievements whenever doubt appears. Recall times when you faced uncertainty but continued working until progress occurred. These memories remind you that current challenges are part of a larger pattern of growth rather than isolated obstacles. As you continue facing difficult tasks, your perception of challenge gradually changes. Instead of viewing complexity as something to avoid, you begin to recognize it as a chance to expand your capabilities. Each new challenge becomes another step in strengthening your confidence. This transformation affects many areas of life. Work becomes more engaging because you are willing to handle responsibility. Learning becomes more rewarding because you approach new subjects with curiosity rather than fear. Relationships improve because confidence allows honest communication and thoughtful decisions. Confidence also increases independence. When you trust your ability to solve problems, you rely less on constant reassurance from others. This independence encourages stronger leadership and clearer judgment. Over time, the accumulation of completed tasks forms a powerful foundation of self-belief. You remember the effort required to overcome previous obstacles, and this memory supports your willingness to face new ones. The mind understands that progress is created through action rather than hesitation. Building confidence through challenges is not about seeking unnecessary hardship. The goal is simply to accept that meaningful growth occurs when effort stretches beyond comfort. Life naturally provides situations that demand patience, focus, and persistence. Responding to these situations with determination transforms them into valuable training. Every completed challenge strengthens your identity as someone who can handle responsibility. You begin to see yourself as capable and reliable. This identity influences future choices because acting with discipline feels consistent with who you have become. Confidence, therefore, is not an abstract idea. It is the result of repeated actions that demonstrate your ability to face reality with effort and determination. By choosing difficult tasks, working through uncertainty, and completing what you start, you gradually build a mind that trusts its own strength. Each challenge faced with commitment becomes another piece of evidence supporting your growth. Over months and years, this evidence accumulates into a deep sense of confidence that cannot easily be shaken by temporary setbacks. When confidence develops in this way, it remains steady even when circumstances change. You know that whatever situation appears, you have the discipline to begin, the patience to continue, and the determination to finish. This quiet assurance becomes one of the most powerful forms of mental strength a person can possess. Chapter 70. Control emotional reactions and respond with patience and clarity. Every person experiences emotional reactions. Anger can rise when someone speaks harshly. Frustration appears when plans collapse. Anxiety develops when outcomes remain uncertain. These reactions are natural parts of being human. The problem does not come from emotions themselves. The difficulty begins when emotions take control of decisions before careful thinking has a chance to appear. A strong mind learns to pause between feeling and action. That pause creates the space where patience and clarity can guide a better response. Emotions often move faster than logic. The brain senses a threat or an insult and immediately prepares the body for defense. Heart rate increases. Muscles tighten. Thoughts rush forward with urgency. In this state, it becomes easy to say words that damage relationships or make choices that create new problems. Learning to slow this reaction is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. The first step toward controlling emotional reactions is awareness. Many people react automatically because they never notice the moment when the emotion begins to rise. Training the mind means paying closer attention to physical signals. Notice the tightening of the jaw, the warmth in the chest, or the quickening of breath. These signals often appear before words or actions occur. Recognizing them early allows you to respond intentionally rather than impulsively. Once you notice these signals, create a short pause before speaking or acting. Even a few seconds of silence can change the direction of a conversation. During that pause, take a slow breath and focus on relaxing your shoulders and face. This simple physical adjustment communicates calmness to the body and reduces the intensity of the emotional surge. Patience is not weakness. Patience is controlled strength. It allows the mind to examine the situation carefully before deciding how to respond. When patience becomes a habit, your words carry more weight because they are chosen deliberately rather than driven by temporary emotion. Another helpful practice involves examining the meaning you assign to events. Emotional reactions often grow stronger when the mind quickly interprets someone's behavior as a personal attack or unfair treatment. However, many situations contain more than one possible explanation. A person who appears rude may actually be distracted or dealing with private stress. Considering alternative explanations prevents unnecessary conflict and encourages understanding. Responding with clarity also requires focusing on facts rather than assumptions. When a disagreement occurs, ask yourself what information you truly know and what details remain uncertain. Clarifying the facts often reduces confusion and prevents emotional exaggeration. Calm conversations become possible when people focus on observable actions rather than imagined intentions. Communication plays a major role in emotional control. Speaking clearly and respectfully during tense moments prevents misunderstandings from escalating. When expressing your perspective, describe the situation and how it affects you without attacking the other person. For example, explain what happened and what outcome you hope to achieve. This approach keeps the conversation productive instead of turning it into a battle. Listening carefully is equally important. Many emotional conflicts continue because each person focuses only on defending their own position. When you allow another person to explain their viewpoint without interruption, you gather valuable information. Sometimes clarity emerges simply because both sides finally feel heard. Practicing emotional discipline also means choosing when not to respond immediately. Certain situations benefit from distance and reflection. If a discussion becomes too intense, it may be wise to step away temporarily and return when emotions have settled. This choice protects relationships and allows thoughtful solutions to appear. Developing patience requires daily practice. Small frustrations throughout the day provide opportunities to strengthen this skill. Delays in traffic, unexpected interruptions, or minor mistakes can serve as training moments. Instead of reacting with irritation, use these situations to practice calm breathing and steady thinking. Each small success strengthens your ability to remain composed during larger challenges. Journaling can also improve emotional awareness. At the end of the day, write briefly about situations where strong emotions appeared. Describe what triggered the reaction and how you responded. Reflect on what worked well and what could be improved next time. This habit increases understanding of your patterns and prepares you for future situations. Another valuable strategy involves separating your identity from temporary feelings. Experiencing anger or frustration does not mean you are an angry or negative person. Emotions pass through the mind like changing weather. Observing them without allowing them to define your character makes it easier to remain balanced. Physical health influences emotional control as well. Fatigue and stress weaken patience and increase irritability. Regular rest, movement, and healthy routines strengthen your ability to stay calm during pressure. When the body feels stable, the mind processes emotional signals more effectively. It is also helpful to remind yourself that most situations are temporary. In moments of anger or disappointment, the mind may believe the problem is permanent. Taking a broader perspective reveals that many difficulties fade with time and thoughtful action. This understanding encourages patience because you recognize that immediate reactions are not always necessary. Practicing gratitude can also soften emotional responses. When the mind regularly acknowledges positive aspects of life, it becomes less likely to explode during minor inconveniences. Gratitude shifts attention toward appreciation and reduces the intensity of negative reactions. Learning from calm role models can strengthen this habit as well. Observe individuals who remain composed during challenging circumstances. Notice how they pause before speaking and how they choose their words carefully. Studying these behaviors provides examples that you can apply in your own interactions. Over time, emotional control becomes a form of quiet confidence. When you know that your reactions are guided by thought rather than impulse, you feel more secure in difficult conversations. Others also begin to trust your judgment because they see that you handle tension with maturity. This skill improves every area of life. In professional settings, patience allows better decisions and clearer communication. In personal relationships, emotional control prevents unnecessary conflict and builds deeper respect. In moments of uncertainty, clarity helps you evaluate options calmly instead of rushing toward regretful choices. Controlling emotional reactions does not mean suppressing feelings completely. Healthy emotions provide valuable information about what matters to you. The goal is to acknowledge those feelings while still allowing reason to guide your behavior. Balance between emotion and thought creates wiser actions. Each time you respond with patience instead of impulsiveness, you strengthen this ability. The mind learns that calm responses produce better outcomes than immediate reactions. Gradually, this understanding becomes automatic. Over weeks and months, your internal environment changes. Situations that once triggered strong reactions begin to feel manageable. You approach conversations with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Your words become clearer because they come from thoughtful reflection instead of emotional turbulence. The discipline of patience builds a stable foundation for mental strength. When you control emotional reactions, you gain the freedom to choose your responses carefully. This freedom allows you to protect your values, maintain respectful relationships, and navigate complex situations with clarity. Through continuous practice, you develop the ability to pause, observe, and respond wisely regardless of external pressure. This calm presence becomes one of your greatest strengths because it ensures that your decisions are guided by understanding rather than momentary emotion. Chapter 80. Practice resilience by standing up again after every failure. Failure is not an endpoint, it is information wrapped in difficulty, and the most reliable way to build resilience is to face setbacks, deliberately analyze them honestly, and act to move forward with purpose. When something goes wrong, the immediate urge is to hide, explain, or to pretend it did not matter. Those responses waste energy and slow recovery. Resilience begins when an honest appraisal replaces avoidance, and when the first action after a setback is chosen to create movement rather than to feed anxiety. Create a short, immediate recovery routine to use the moment you recognize a failure. Breathe slowly for 6 breaths to steady the body, then write one sentence that describes what happened in plain factual language, and finally choose one modest action you can take in the next 30 minutes to improve the situation or to prevent similar loss. This compact routine moves your nervous system from panic into problem solving and gives the brain a simple script to follow so indecision does not widen the damage. After the first response, perform a calm investigation that focuses on cause and remedy instead of blame. Ask 3 questions and only these 3. What sequence of events led to this outcome? Which part of that sequence was under my control? And what precise change would reduce the chance of recurrence? Limit the investigation to 30 to 60 minutes so analysis does not become paralysis. Document your answers concisely and store them where you can revisit them later as practical lessons rather than as painful memories. Build a next step rule for every setback. A next step should be small, observable, and finishable within a short time frame. Large, vague promises like "I will fix everything" are easily forgotten. Concrete commitments such as recreate the lost file and share a progress update within 2 hours or schedule a brief meeting to clarify expectations tomorrow morning are powerful because they create visible evidence of recovery and they feed momentum. Practice scheduled failure experiments to reduce fear and improve adaptation. Intentionally try tasks with a measurable chance of not succeeding in low-cost environments. Examples include entering a public speaking slot at a small local event, trying a new technique on a weekend project, or pitching an imperfect idea to a trusted colleague. These experiments teach how to respond when outcomes differ from hopes, and they make actual failure a regular training tool rather than a rare catastrophe. Keep a short log of recoveries that records 3 facts for each episode: the problem, the first corrective step you took, and what changed as a result. Reviewing this log once a week shifts your view of setbacks from threats into evidence of capability. Over time, the log becomes a quiet library of past recoveries, proving that difficulties can be handled and often lead to stronger outcomes. Learn to separate the temporary experience of failure from your identity. Failures describe an event, not the person. Replace thoughts that speak in absolute terms with statements that reflect process and possibility. Instead of "I am a failure," use "I experienced a setback, and I am taking steps to learn from it." This shift in language reduces shame and increases readiness to act. When a failure involves other people, practice direct, responsible communication. State the facts, describe the intended next step, and offer a clear timeline for follow-up. For example, "I missed the deadline because X happened. Here is my plan to resolve it, and I will report progress by Tuesday." Short, honest messages restore trust faster than long explanations, and they transfer energy from guilt into solution. Use structured pause points to prevent reactive behavior after a major mistake. Give yourself a predetermined minimum waiting period before making any large related decisions, for example 24 to 72 hours depending on the stakes. During that interval, focus on gathering information and restoring necessary resources rather than on fixing everything immediately. Short delays often reveal better options and prevent costly impulsive fixes. Design contingency routines for the top 3 risks in your life or work. Identify a risk, a simple early warning sign, and 2 low-cost mitigations. Having these plans on hand reduces surprise and speeds recovery when problems arise. The existence of practical contingencies changes the way setbacks feel because you know a response already exists and you only need to execute it. Reframe the meaning of failure by asking what skill or insight the experience is offering. This question trains attention to benefits rather than only to losses, and it helps you convert discomfort into learning. Write down at least one competence you gained or patched as a result of the setback, even if the gain is small, like improved documentation, better communication, or a clearer boundary. Cultivate a small circle of honest advisors who will provide direct feedback and useful options when things go wrong. Choose people who speak from experience and who prioritize practical improvements rather than offering empty comfort. A trusted advisor can shorten the recovery timeline by pointing to solutions you may not see in the moment. Establish a simple routine to restore your physical state after failure. Short restorative actions such as a focused walk, nutritious food, and a defined sleep window help repair cognitive and emotional resources. This is not indulgence, it is maintenance. The brain needs basic care to think clearly, and persistence depends on restored energy. Practice mental rehearsal of recovery steps. Visualize the failure occurring, and then run through the precise recovery routine you will use. Mental rehearsal reduces surprise and makes your chosen response more likely to occur under stress. Rehearse especially the first 30 minutes because initial actions often determine the long-term path. Notice and adjust any habits that contribute to repeated setbacks. If a pattern emerges, such as rushing tasks, overcommitting, or reacting without consulting others, then create micro-habits to interrupt the pattern. Examples include adding 10 minutes of final review before submission, setting hard limits on new commitments, or contacting a colleague for a quick reality check before crucial moves. Keep accountability visible by sharing one recovery objective with a reliable person and asking for a short confirmation when the step is complete. External checks increase follow-through and convert private regret into coordinated action. The presence of accountability changes the internal pressure from something paralyzing into something productive. Celebrate the completion of the first corrective step, even if the larger issue remains unresolved. Small wins matter because they release dopamine and support continued effort. Mark these moments with brief recognition, such as noting the action in your log, sending a short update, or taking a focused pause to consciously register that progress has been made. Turn setbacks into training by extracting one experiment to try next time. Use the smallest practical change likely to improve outcomes and test it deliberately on the next related task. Over many cycles, these micro-experiments produce cumulative improvement, and they change fear into curiosity. Develop a habit of asking precise follow-up questions after recovery. Who was affected? What worked? What did not? And what will change next time are clear queries that yield actionable improvements. Avoid open-ended blame inquiries and focus on changes that fit the resources and constraints you actually have. Frame resilience as a set of executable skills, not as a personality trait you either possess or lack. Competence in recovery is built through repeated application of routines, analysis, and small adjustments. Treat each setback as a session of practical education where the goal is to graduate with one new useful habit. Finally, protect your sense of purpose while repairing damage. Remind yourself of the larger goals that guided your original action and use them to orient recovery decisions. Purpose anchors effort and prevents the recovery process itself from becoming aimless. When a setback strikes, check that your corrective steps align with your broader direction and then proceed. Standing up again after every failure is a choice to transform difficulty into forward motion. By preparing simple routines for immediate action, carrying out focused analysis, designing small next steps, and practicing consistent follow-up, you convert loss into learning and build a mind that reliably recovers. Each recovery tightens the skill of adaptation and makes the next challenge less daunting because you remember what action looks like when things break. Chapter 9Z. Build inner stability through reflection, learning, and daily awareness. Inner stability grows from regular moments of honest attention and small practices that teach you how to steady your mind regardless of what happens outside. Start by creating a short morning pause that is not about productivity, but about presence. Before reaching for messages, take 3 slow breaths while standing still and say quietly to yourself one clear intention for the day expressed in plain language. Keep the intention specific and practical, like stay focused on one priority or speak kindly when stressed. This tiny ritual trains the brain to begin the day anchored rather than scattered. Make reflection a daily habit by keeping a slim notebook or a single note on your phone dedicated only to learning. At the end of each day, write 3 lines: what you accomplished, what surprised you, and one concrete improvement for tomorrow. Use short phrases, not long essays, so this task never feels heavy. Over weeks, these notes form a map of progress and a searchable record of what actually changes your behavior. Practice immediate micro-reflection when a strong emotion appears. Pause long enough to answer 2 quick questions in your head: what just happened, and what did I feel physically? Naming the event and the bodily signal separates the experience into parts you can examine rather than a single overwhelming wave. After this quick check, decide on one small next action, such as take 5 deep breaths, step away for 2 minutes, or send a calm, clarifying message. Choosing a modest step prevents reactions from ballooning into drama. Create a weekly learning session that is short, focused, and structured. Pick one day to review entries from your daily notebook and highlight patterns. Ask which small routines helped most and which distractions stole energy. Identify one experiment to run the next week based on this review and describe exactly how you will test it. Experiments should be tiny and measurable. For example, add 10 minutes of reading each morning or stop checking social media until after lunch. Treat the experiment like a laboratory test rather than a moral judgment. Use sensory anchors to return to balance during busy periods. A simple touch point such as placing your hand on your chest, feeling the stable beat, or pressing your fingertips together for a few seconds brings attention back to the present. Repeating a brief tactile ritual during stressful moments teaches your nervous system a new default response that signals safety rather than alarm. Practice single tasking as a stability tool. When working on an important task, set a timer for 25 minutes and focus on only that one activity. Remove visual distractions and put the phone face down. After the interval, take a short break and note one thing that improved, because you stayed with it. Over time, single-task sessions expand your capacity to tolerate focus and reduce the fracturing effect of constant switching. Set explicit boundaries with technology to protect mental space. Choose 2 daily windows when notifications are silenced and use that time for reflective work or rest. Announce these boundaries to people who need to know and keep them consistent so others learn what to expect. A predictable rhythm of focused attention and deliberate rest stabilizes the mind and reduces the constant tug of fragmented information. Learn to translate events into lessons rather than into character judgments. When a plan fails, write one sentence that isolates a fact and one sentence that states a learning objective. For example, the presentation required clearer evidence, and next time gather 2 additional supporting examples. Avoid language that uses global terms about worth or identity. Practice this translation repeatedly until the habit of learning becomes automatic. Adopt a short breathing practice that you use daily at the same times, such as after lunch and before bed. A reliable pattern repeated in safe moments trains the body to shift its baseline toward calm. When you need composure in more difficult situations, that practiced breathing becomes available without effort because the body recognizes it as familiar. Build a slowdown ritual for transitions. At the end of work or study, perform 3 actions that mark the boundary between activity and rest, such as close your workspace, tidy one small area, and write down the single most important task for tomorrow. These simple habits create psychological separation that prevents the day's friction from spilling into personal time, and they support clearer reflection. Cultivate curiosity about your reactions rather than immediate judgment. When you feel triggered, ask, what belief or expectation did this situation activate, and is that belief still useful? Curiosity turns emotional energy into investigative work and reduces the tendency to respond defensively. Over time, asking these 2 quick questions trains you to look beneath surface feelings and to update old assumptions. Practice deliberate solitude once per week, even if it is only a short walk without a phone. Solitude is not loneliness when it is chosen and structured. Use that time to notice how your mind operates without constant input. Pay attention to which thoughts repeat and which worries fade when you are alone with yourself. Solitude gives the mind room to reorder priorities and strengthens inner steadiness. Use a learning log to capture feedback and improvement ideas from others. After a conversation that matters, write 1 sentence about what you heard and 1 sentence about how you will respond or change. Acting on brief external feedback turns social interactions into a source of steady growth rather than a threat to identity. Experiment with tiny morning or evening rituals that connect you to values beyond immediate tasks. A 2-minute reflection on what matters to you anchors daily action in a larger purpose. Choose a phrase that reflects your values and repeat it silently at the start of reflective practice. This keeps your habits aligned with long-term direction and makes routine choices easier because they link to something meaningful. Schedule short pause checks during the day where you assess energy, not achievements. Ask, am I physically alert, emotionally calm, and mentally clear? If any area is low, choose 1 small corrective action such as hydrate, move for 5 minutes, or breathe deeply. Prioritizing basic recovery preserves clarity and prevents small resource drains from escalating into poor decisions. Practice gratitude focused on stability. At the end of the week, list 3 systems that supported you, such as a reliable friend, a clear routine, or a restful night of sleep. Acknowledging the scaffolding that holds your life steady shifts attention away from random events and toward consistent elements you can cultivate further. Learn to describe setbacks in process language rather than as final statements. Replace sentences that suggest permanence with action-oriented descriptions. For example, swap "it failed forever" with "the plan did not work and I will test an adjustment." This linguistic shift reduces emotional weight and opens the mind to alternatives. Create a short accountability habit with one trusted person, where you share one weekly insight and one specific commitment for the week ahead. Keep the exchange brief and factual so it remains sustainable. External accountability helps maintain continuity and makes reflection a public practice rather than a private promise easily broken. Use reading as a stabilizing habit by selecting short essays or small chapters that you can finish in one sitting, and then summarizing one practical idea in your notebook. Learning in small bites builds knowledge slowly and creates a rhythm of consistent improvement that reinforces inner calm. Make room for physical restoration as a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. Regular sleep windows, brief restorative naps, and moderate movement are not rewards, they are the infrastructure of a steady mind. Treat these practices as essential because cognitive stability depends on basic physical systems functioning well. Practice reframing uncertainty as information rather than threat during reflection work. When outcomes are unclear, write down 3 possible meanings for the uncertainty and 2 potential experiments to reduce it. This turns ambiguity into a set of tests instead of an open-ended worry. Honor progress by celebrating consistent small wins privately. Mark the completion of a new habit with a brief note or a small non-food reward. Recognition signals to the brain that repetition yields value, and it strengthens the motivation loop that sustains discipline. Finally, remember that inner stability is built by showing up persistently with curiosity, discipline, and compassion. It does not arrive through one insight or a single perfect day. It grows by repeated attention to how you act, think, and rest. Continue applying short reflective moments, daily, weekly experiments, and simple recovery habits, and the foundation of steadiness becomes visible in choices you make under pressure. Chapter Heading A. Commit to lifelong mental growth and continuous self-improvement. A powerful life is built on the quiet decision to never stop developing your mind. Growth is not a temporary project that ends after a course, a book, or a period of motivation. It becomes a long-term commitment to refining how you think, how you respond, and how you understand the world around you. The people who continue evolving throughout their lives do not wait for perfect conditions to begin learning again. They treat improvement as a normal part of daily living, the same way breathing and moving are natural parts of being alive. Committing to lifelong mental growth begins with adopting a learner's mindset. A learner does not assume they already know enough. Instead, they stay curious about new perspectives, ideas, and experiences. Curiosity keeps the mind flexible. When curiosity disappears, thinking becomes rigid and predictable. A curious mind constantly asks questions, observes patterns, and searches for deeper understanding beyond surface appearances. This attitude keeps the brain active and open even when life becomes routine. One of the strongest ways to develop the mind continuously is by exposing yourself to knowledge from different fields. Reading widely across subjects introduces ideas that challenge your assumptions. Philosophy, science, psychology, history, and creative writing each offer unique ways of thinking. When different perspectives collide in your mind, they create new insights. Instead of limiting yourself to familiar topics, explore unfamiliar areas that force you to think differently. Growth often begins at the edge of what you currently understand. Lifelong improvement also requires humility. A person who believes they already have all the answers closes the door to further development. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means recognizing that there is always more to learn. Every person you meet carries experiences and lessons that you have not encountered. When you listen carefully to others, you gain access to knowledge that cannot be found in books alone. Respecting other perspectives expands your awareness and deepens your understanding of the world. Another essential part of mental development is learning from mistakes without allowing them to define your identity. Errors are inevitable in any meaningful pursuit. Instead of hiding from them or feeling defeated by them, analyze them with honesty. Ask what went wrong, what could be adjusted, and what insight can be extracted from the experience. Each mistake contains information that can guide better decisions in the future. When you view mistakes as teachers rather than enemies, improvement becomes a continuous cycle. Mental growth also depends on challenging your comfort zone regularly. Comfort provides safety but rarely encourages development. When you attempt tasks that require new skills, your mind is forced to adapt and expand. Learning a new language, practicing public speaking, developing technical abilities, or studying complex subjects all stimulate cognitive growth. These challenges strengthen mental flexibility and encourage creative problem solving. Self-improvement becomes sustainable when it is integrated into everyday habits rather than occasional bursts of motivation. Small learning routines practiced daily accumulate into significant knowledge over time. Spending a short period each day reading, studying, or practicing a skill may seem insignificant at first. However, months of consistent effort produce deep understanding and noticeable progress. Consistency quietly transforms the mind in ways that dramatic but short-lived efforts cannot achieve. Reflection also plays a critical role in continuous development. Without reflection, experiences pass through life without leaving lasting lessons. Taking time to review what you learned from a conversation, a project, or a challenge helps turn events into meaningful insights. Reflection connects experience with understanding. It encourages you to notice patterns in your behavior and discover ways to improve your thinking. An important aspect of lifelong growth is strengthening critical thinking. The modern world presents enormous amounts of information every day. Not all of it is accurate, helpful, or meaningful. Critical thinking allows you to evaluate ideas carefully before accepting them. Instead of believing everything immediately, examine evidence, question assumptions, and analyze reasoning. This process sharpens your judgment and protects your mind from manipulation or confusion. Continuous improvement also requires patience. Real transformation rarely happens quickly. Many people begin learning enthusiastically, but abandon the effort when results appear slowly. True growth develops gradually as knowledge accumulates and skills mature through repeated practice. Patience allows you to stay committed even when progress is not immediately visible. Trust the process and remain consistent. Seeking feedback is another valuable method for expanding your awareness. Other people often notice patterns or weaknesses that you cannot see clearly yourself. Constructive feedback offers an opportunity to refine your approach and strengthen your abilities. Instead of reacting defensively, listen carefully and consider whether the observation contains useful insight. Openness to feedback accelerates development because it reveals blind spots that would otherwise remain hidden. Lifelong learners also develop the habit of asking better questions. Good questions lead to deeper exploration. Instead of asking simple questions that produce short answers, ask questions that encourage analysis and reflection. Questions like, "Why does this work this way?" or "What could be improved here?" stimulate deeper thinking. The quality of your questions often determines the quality of your understanding. Another key element of mental improvement is surrounding yourself with people who value learning and progress. Conversations with thoughtful individuals stimulate new ideas and encourage intellectual curiosity. When you spend time with people who constantly explore knowledge and discuss meaningful topics, your own thinking naturally becomes sharper. The environment you create around yourself influences how your mind develops over time. Developing creative thinking also supports continuous growth. Creativity is not limited to artistic activities. It includes the ability to generate new solutions, connect unrelated ideas, and approach problems from fresh angles. Practicing creativity strengthens your ability to adapt in changing situations. When challenges arise, creative thinking allows you to design innovative responses instead of relying only on familiar patterns. Mental growth becomes stronger when it is combined with purposeful action. Learning information is valuable, but applying that knowledge transforms it into wisdom. Whenever you study a concept, look for opportunities to practice it in real situations. Application strengthens understanding and reveals practical insights that theory alone cannot provide. Another valuable habit is periodically reviewing your long-term direction. Growth becomes more meaningful when it is aligned with personal values and meaningful goals. Taking time to consider what kind of person you want to become helps guide your learning efforts. Instead of improving randomly, you develop skills and knowledge that support your larger purpose. Resilience also supports lifelong development. Difficult periods may interrupt routines and test your motivation. During these times, it is important to remember that growth is not a straight line. Temporary setbacks do not erase previous progress. Returning to learning after obstacles strengthens your determination and reinforces your commitment to self-development. Curiosity about the world is one of the greatest fuels for mental evolution. Observing nature, exploring cultures, studying human behavior, and analyzing complex systems all stimulate intellectual growth. Curiosity transforms everyday life into a classroom filled with opportunities to learn something new. Another essential aspect of continuous improvement is maintaining mental flexibility. Ideas that once seemed certain may change when new evidence appears. Being willing to revise your beliefs demonstrates intellectual maturity. Flexibility allows you to adapt your understanding as knowledge expands. Rigid thinking blocks progress, while adaptable thinking supports deeper insight. Reading biographies of accomplished individuals can also inspire ongoing development. Learning how others faced challenges, overcame failures, and expanded their thinking provides valuable perspective. These stories reveal that growth often involves persistence through uncertainty and long periods of effort. Maintaining physical well-being also contributes to mental performance. Adequate sleep, healthy nutrition, and regular movement support brain function and cognitive clarity. A healthy body provides the energy necessary for learning, creativity, and sustained concentration. Gratitude for the opportunity to learn encourages a positive relationship with growth. Instead of seeing improvement as a burden, view it as a privilege. Each new idea you discover expands your ability to understand life more deeply. Appreciating the process keeps motivation strong even when learning requires effort. Ultimately, committing to lifelong mental growth means recognizing that development never truly ends. Every stage of life presents new questions, challenges, and opportunities to expand your understanding. The journey of improvement is not about reaching a final destination. It is about continuing to evolve into a wiser, more thoughtful, and more capable version of yourself. When learning becomes a permanent part of your identity, the mind remains vibrant and adaptable regardless of age or circumstance. Curiosity continues to guide exploration, discipline maintains progress, and reflection deepens wisdom. Through this ongoing commitment, personal development transforms from a temporary goal into a lifelong path of discovery and self-improvement.